Greetings, my name is Michael Miller and this is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, the core and the core, my patrons, Clayton, Ruby, Stephanie, Jonathan, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor or student. I was going to do that before I made my introduction, but then I was off into my introduction before I started signing. So I signed 3 things, right? Joe's definition, then something about gravity, and then something from the mind about contrology, MMP definition. So, contrology is complete coordination of body, mind, and spirit. Gravity, force, is the issue of alignment. Alignment is sensational via tension. I forgot the via. Tension between 2 points. Between 2 points. And from that you trigger more uniform engagement of the body and a sensation of alignment. Alignment you can feel. And then number 3 is, from MMP's point of view, the idea of contrology is uniform, eccentric loading, flowing through progressive patterns of movement. Number 2 is about yesterday's broadcast was historic because I'm doing sign language yesterday, and Cecilia Lorenzi started contributing a translation of what I was saying from the sign language into Spanish, a different language. And what a pleasure and what a delight to have someone be willing to act as translator right there live in the moment for what I was trying to communicate, first in sign language, and then I was doing an English translation and Cecilia was doing one into Spanish. Thank you so much, and that kind of participation is humbling and gratefully appreciated. Number 3. Biology is what it is because of physics. Biology is what it is because of physics. Pilates is what it is because of physics. Now again, of course, that's the MMP point of view. But from that point of view, MMP looks at the biology and the physics in which the biology is trying to survive in, because it's about surviving. Joe is a survivor, his method is survival training, and off you go on that thread. And then from the MMP point of view, it's not just about the physics of the sequence of the exercises, but it's also in the state of mind, or the state of being, really. Seeking complete coordination of being, thinking, and observing. Whatever you want to make of Pilates, within the realm of a presumed physics that applies to everybody. For an MMP instructor, it would be naive to ignore a point of view that helped you be a better Pilates instructor, that helped you survive as a Pilates instructor. And so within the MMP point of view, Pilates is an experience, and that experience is like fire insofar as it requires 3 ingredients for that experience to exist. In fire, it's heat and fuel and oxygen. I think I got that right. Heat, fuel, and oxygen. And in Pilates, it's being, thinking, and observing. And it takes those 3 capacities that in any way get or experience a coordination between them. Those are the sparks of what you're after in the experience, chasing the performance of the mat. The mat itself is structured because of the physics that we're in, insofar as loading, right? Insofar as patterns of movement. Pilates is a poem that pays homage to the ideal fundamental, or to the fundamental ideals we find ourselves in space. 3 dimensions. Straight lines, round circles, parallel lines. So now I'm talking to a person who's trying to survive as a Pilates instructor, and I'm talking about Pilates latency. You can think of like lateness, or how long something takes. And the opposite of that is how fast something is. But latency is the interval between something happening and getting some kind of response back. And so when I'm talking about Pilates latency, I was thinking of something different. Well, and not really, in terms of how long it takes to catch up, right? Or to have something, to hear something back. Or recognizing that a message takes time. There's a delay in how much you can know, how fast you can know it, based on how much you can learn. And yet it's a lot it's a lifetime or 2 or 3, 4 generations worth of your own study to get to somewhere. So practically speaking, knowing what you know and knowing that it might be different than what you see in front of you in forms of the manifestation of movement, I have found it helpful to ask if someone wanted to try something different. Not better, not worse, just different. And that's exactly what I say. Not better, not worse, just different. To avoid the obvious judgmentality that is implied going anywhere different at all. But that's why you're there as an instructor. Even if you've known the person and done the same routine for years, you're still there to be you. And in being you, introducing something different, not better or worse, allows you to go in the direction of core new tension for your whole body and the coordination of being, thinking, and observing as the experience that you're after. And that's just MMP. Because there's so much more. There's a broad spectrum of other ways and interests and priorities and points of view of Pilates. This broadcast is, hopefully, a repetitive exposure to a point of view. And if you listen to one or more than one, and you find any familiarity between them, that I hope is a good thing, and that you easily come to your own conclusions, both from your own senses, as well as in your own thinking. So number 4, is it number 4? No, it's number 5. What would you tell Joe and why? So that you could frame that a lot of different ways. What would it happen, or how would you go up to it if you were in the presence of Joseph Pilates? But rather than any of the other ways you might characterize that, it's like if you had to tell Joseph Pilates something, aside from having anything to tell him at all in a way, but from you, what would you tell him? That's the point of it, I guess, is that each of us would have something we would probably want to tell him if the result of his work held a significant position in my daily life. As a performer, as an instructor, right? But what would you tell Joe? Oh, man. My note says, good job. That's what I would say, is good job. Good job, Joe. And then I'd say, thank you, of course, thank you. But it's a good job. Why? Because it is. It's a very good job. I would want to tell him more about how the view of ourselves as human beings, by those that are brightest among us, trying to figure it out, would place doing Pilates at the heart of the human experience. Because doing Pilates is a reaction to the reality that we find ourselves in. And a lot of that reality has to do with the physics and the fact that we're biology seeking to survive within the physics. Doesn't mean we can't necessarily go beyond the physics that we understand, but that it does resonate to or fit within state-of-the-art biology and physics. Just as a layman, I'm saying, I'm not trying to, just as a layman. So, as a conclusion, the KWYK, know what you know. And part of knowing what you know is knowing how to make a difference without making a fuss or making a mess or denigrating anything else. Right? From the MMP point of view, the one place you're trying to take your student to safely, and with as much fun as possible, is into a coordination of being, thinking, and observing. So when I talk about or had the words knuckles to neck and ribs to buttocks as advertising items for a poster, people came just to figure out what that meant. And yet, knuckles to neck can especially be demonstrated if you have springs, like a pedal pole or a spring wall or the end of a Cadillac, or a TheraBand over the top of your head. Be careful. On all of it. Do it with instruction. Don't do it if you're not insured. Have insurance. Have releases. Have a business. But the knuckles to neck and the ribs to buttocks is awareness of making tension perceptible. So by making tension, right, you make an alignment perceptible. More so than if you were just asking for the body to do it on its own without understanding what it's, or how to do what it's trying to do. Core new tension is how the body is trying to engage itself to move through space. It distributes the load, and from the tension between endpoints throughout, it makes alignment perceptible between those endpoints, both individually and cumulatively, I want to say, but I think that might be a reach. So, know what you know as in terms of CT and MMP. Know what you know, and let the awareness of those two identifications help you survive and prosper as a Pilates instructor. Because life can't live forever. Read between the lines and see behind the curtain. Add two and two. After you evaluate points of view, direct your thinking. Geist.